Human trafficking, the subject of sensational news stories, shocking studies, and big action movies. The unthinkable crime, trading in human beings in the 21st century. You, your friends, colleagues, CNN, everybody knows about it. But what do you know? Does it matter as long as you are aware? Yes, it matters. Mythologies, cliches, and stereotypes, they are as useful against trafficking as a dull knife is at a surgery. A young woman snatched off the streets of a busy city. Has it happened? Yes. Is it the norm? Definitely not. But it looks good in a movie because it's shocking. But trafficking is definitely not random. It is deviously strategic, meticulously planned, and ruthlessly executed.
Trafficking itself doesn't happen at one chronological point in time. What we see on TV is that someone was trafficked and enslaved. What we don't see is how they got to that point. What circumstances put them in a position to be vulnerable? How were they deceived? How were they recruited? How were they exploited? How were they betrayed?
Traffickers are businessmen and women. They deal in supply and demand. Commodities, adults, children, babies, and customers. Some who want sex, but a lot more who want nannies, cheap agricultural labor, and construction workers. And childless couples who want babies. But it is always about profit.
Traffickers are not interested in how someone is exploited, okay? They're interested in money. They're interested in how much money they can make off of a person.
$1.4 billion people live on less than $1.25 a day. Another 1.2 billion live on less than $2 a day. Yes, the poor are the most likely to be trafficked. They are vulnerable, they are desperate. But the poor are also very likely to be trafficked to developed countries. Cheap labor is in demand there. Profits from exploitation are high. There are source, transit, and destination countries for human trafficking. Any nation, rich or poor, can be one or any combination of the three.
I've not found one place in the world that doesn't have human smuggling or trafficking.
They are promised lots of things by these traffickers, luxury in France, in Spain, and they're not told that they're going to be used by lots of men. And they believe these traffickers, and they trust them, and they're easy prey.
Human smugglers are paid to move customers from A to Z. Human traffickers move people to customers. They use promises of good jobs and wages, but it is all lies. The reality is labor or sexual exploitation. Wages go mostly to cover the traffickers' inflated costs of moving the victim. It is called debt bondage. With 2.6 billion people living below the poverty line, the supply of victims is endless. Traffickers treat them like paper products, what author Kevin Bales calls disposable people.
Let's not confuse the slavery of 200, 300 years ago with slavery today. We've done a disservice by using imagery that involves chains and bars. This is very much a psychological and an emotional slavery.
The new slavery breaks the will and crushes the spirit without chains. Trafficking victims start to believe they are the criminals. They are told they face arrest, jail, and deportation if they don't do as they are told. When you don't speak the language and your captor is friendly with all the authorities, you live in a prison without walls. Your trafficker becomes your protector. In the new slavery, it isn't about skin color, it's about vulnerability. Traffickers are ruthless, without the slightest sympathy for their victims and no hint of remorse. But they don't crawl on their bellies or fear the light.
Well, I led a team of undercover journalists, and what we wanted to do for the first time on British television was expose a baby trafficker at work. There were a number of things that we found incredibly shocking as a result. One of them was the way in which our target, Harry, was operating incredibly openly in...
Traffickers have high social intelligence, they operate within strong social networks, and they endear themselves to all sorts of people in every level of society. And their success in poor environments often makes them local heroes.
Many people who are smuggled work in sweatshops, they work in construction, they work in gardening and landscaping, all the services that maintain a middle-class lifestyle in many parts of the world.
We value money, power, success, and our creature comforts. We complain about the high cost of everything. How many of us ask questions about why supermarket produce might be so reasonable, or house help, clothing, sporting goods, and processed foods are so cheap?
Trafficking defies gender boundaries. It's an equal opportunity exploitation. It's true on both sides, both for the exploiter and for the exploited.
Being weak isn't about the lack of physical power. It's about lack of money, lack of skills, lack of choices, lack of hope. The carrot on the trafficker's stick, the trafficker's strength, is the promise of change. This is a true story. An outreach worker in Paris met a boy from a poor Romanian village that he knew well. The boy was begging for an organized crime ring. He knew the boy's village had excellent awareness campaigns on human trafficking. "Didn't you pay attention?" he asked the boy. "They warned it would be a nightmare. Why did you leave home?" The boy's answer: "The nightmare I didn't know looked better than the nightmare I lived every day."
Human trafficking is the result of enormous inequality in the world today, regional conflicts and wars, enormous population growth in countries that don't have growing economies and don't have jobs. And so there isn't one solution that addresses all of it.
Education is important, but it's not enough if you still can't feed yourself and your family. It doesn't suffice if you see no other way out of a lifetime of abuse. It is set aside when you grew up in an institution, one caregiver to 20 children, and someone is promising you love and a bright new future.
The traffickers are smart, but we need to be smarter than they are. And frankly, we're not right now. We have to become more innovative than they are, we have to become more opportunistic than they are, and we have to become more responsive than they are. These guys are the ultimate entrepreneurs. We have to become the ultimate social entrepreneurs.
We need to work smarter to defeat trafficking. Traffickers are entrepreneurs. They adapt rapidly to changing markets and new laws. They operate with unrestricted capital and without rules. Law enforcement and humanitarian agencies never have as many resources as the criminals. We need to attack trafficking where it will hurt the trafficker the most, by addressing the vulnerabilities of the victims. We need to become more innovative, more entrepreneurial than the trafficking entrepreneurs themselves. The vulnerable live in poverty and conflict zones. They live with exclusion, injustice, violence, and corruption. Address these issues, and we attack trafficking at the source. Traffickers are predatory entrepreneurs. We must beat them at their own game with innovative programming, social entrepreneurship, and strategic partnerships. For more information about trafficking and about our work against it, please visit our website.